Here's an early PSA 10 example of a 1978 Topps Eddie Murray. I'm not sure exactly when it was graded, but I think it's the third 10 PSA ever awarded. Now there are 18. But here's the weird thing. Go back one certification number before. Another PSA 10 Eddie Murray. Go back one more. Another Gem Mint 10 Murray card. 3 PSA 10 Murrays in a row. What are the odds? It gets a little more unbelievable when you keep going backwards through the early certification numbers. The next card down is a Murray 9, but then look at this run of Molitor rookies. 2 PSA 10s and 4 PSA 9s. I don't know for sure, but I presume that these are all from the same submission. For a couple of months now, I've been working on trying to determine if PSA grades cards fairly and objectively. I've been focused on some of the most valuable cards of the last 40 years. Cards with extremely low pops in PSA 10 grade. What I've found so far has been a bit surprising. When I test PSA's grading standards, either through statistical analysis or print sheet examination, the low pops of these cards can't be justified. I'll link some of these videos at the end so you can consider this for yourself. My research has made me question if PSA is artificially manipulating the supply of these high-grade cards for their own financial self-interest, or for some other reasons, such as rewarding some of their top customers. Many of you have also wondered about this in the comments of my previous videos. The next step is to examine these PSA 10 cards themselves. If PSA is operating objectively, then we should expect that the people who originally submitted these 10s should be completely random. That is, we should see that average collectors like many of us, and big customers alike, are getting the 10s. But if PSA is operating to restrict these 10s to a certain group of people, we should see some evidence of that too. I needed to try to trace these 10s back to their original submitters. A quick word about my methodology. Research like this is extremely difficult and time-consuming. PSA submission records are not public, and nearly all of these high-value cards are sold through anonymous consignment companies, which shield the seller's identity. For this project, I tracked down as many Murray PSA 10s as I could through sales records. Then I tried to reconstruct submission records by going through the certification numbers, forward and backwards. Because the Murray 10s are themselves almost untraceable, I had to focus on adjoining cards that may have been submitted with the Murrays. I ended up trying to trace the adjoining cards back to their original submitter, either through sales records or through PSA's public registry set page. I even personally contacted a number of owners of these adjoining cards. Of the 18 PSA 10 Eddie Murray rookies, I was able to track down 15 of them. These are the first 3 I could find. I don't have pictures of the first 2 because there's no sales history out there. The sales data available before 2007 is pretty much non-existent. Although I don't have proof, I think these 3 Murray 10s are linked to the 8 cards before them into a larger submission. The only sales data I could find on any of these Molitors is the one 2017 Memory Lane auction. The cards graded after these 3 Murray 10s have some high-grade examples too, including a PSA 10 Walter Payton rookie, just 3 certs away. Ultimately, I have no idea who submitted these Murray cards, but the likelihood of a random collector getting 3 consecutive Murray 10s pretty much speaks for itself. This next card was part of the famous Dmitri Young collection. The only sale I could find for it was in 2012 when that collection was broken up. None of the cards adjoining the certification number have any sales history, so I have no clue as to this card's origin. When you run the certification number for this card, you get a notice from PSA to call their office. My friend Al was able to confirm this means that someone tried to counterfeit the slab and sell the fake 10. When I tried to reconstruct a submission list for this card, I came up empty. A couple of the cards around it were sold on eBay. I reached out to one of the sellers, but he couldn't provide any information on who he bought his adjoining card from. Hang on for this one, it's quite a story. This Murray 10 sold with Memory Lane on 8/11/06, which is important. When I started going through the certification numbers around this card, I found something quite unbelievable. 10 after 10 after 10, both before and after the Murray was graded. A number of the cards after the Murray also sold in that same Memory Lane auction on 8/11/06, which confirmed they were from the same submission. In all, there's a total of 31 consecutive PSA 10 grades given in this submission. Let me repeat that, 31 consecutive 10s for vintage cards. To make it more surreal, look at some of these low pop cards that came out of this PSA order. There's a bunch of 101s, some consecutive 105s, and 3 straight 1 of 10's too. I came up with 3 possible people that could have submitted the Murray. All 3 sold cards from this submission themselves on eBay using their personal accounts. One account is Mint State Inc., which is owned by Rick Snyder, the PSA authorized dealer. 2 other sales were through the accounts of WC Sports 1 and Consignmints. Both of these guys have been outed on Blowout and Collectors Universe forums, as well as Sports Card Radio, as being card trimmers and possibly shill bidders. It's alleged they work together. I'll post some links below if you want to read about them. I don't know which of these 3 big-time dealers submitted the Murray 10, which looks like it has a crooked, trimmed edge. This card was one of a handful of Murray 10s sold on eBay between 2005 and 2009. The seller was Homeland Sports Card Collector. I trace this back to a guy named Kevin Erlbeck, who ran this company between 2006 and 2008. Erlbeck was later accused by his employers of diverting money from their business accounts to his sports card business, but that case was later dismissed. Ultimately, I couldn't find any contact information for Erlbeck, and I don't know if he even submitted this card to PSA. The cards around the Murray 10 don't offer any real clue either. 2 large-scale dealers both sold cards in close proximity to the Murray. One interesting thing I did find was that the person who bought this card also bought the next Murray 10, an Uber collector named What's the Matter You. This tilted-looking card was sold on eBay by Consignmints, who is Joe Tuttle, an outed card trimmer I mentioned 2 cards ago. This card also has one of the counterfeit notices from PSA when you look up the cert number. This card was sold by Probstein123 in 2015. You can see there's a noticeable gap at the top and side edge of this card. I couldn't find anything out about the submitter when I looked at nearby certification numbers, so the origin of this card is unknown. I haven't had much luck tracing this card back either. I contacted several current owners of cards that could have been in the same submission order to PSA, but no one could tell me who they bought their cards from. I did notice this card also has those noticeable gaps on the side and bottom edge. More obvious on the back. I'm going to cover these next 4 cards at the same time since they were all sold by PWCC between 2016 and 2019. They all fall into a similar pattern. They were part of larger submissions to PSA, and the cards immediately before or after them were also sold by PWCC in the same auctions. It's not clear to me whether PWCC submitted the cards directly to PSA or whether a customer did. We do know that PWCC was a big client of PSA and would submit large orders themselves. Whether or not you consider these submissions questionable is probably determined by your opinion of PWCC. Last card. This one was also sold by PWCC in 2018. But what I found interesting is that the next 5 certification numbers after it were all sold on eBay a few months before the Murray. All of those cards were sold by Kane04. This account has been traced back to Jeremy Bachman, another person outed on Blowout as a card trimmer. I'm not sure it matters whether PWCC or Bachman submitted the Murray card to PSA. You can see the telltale gaps along the right side and bottom edge of the card and slab. I wanted to say a word about the gaps between the cards and the holders that are so common on these Eddie Murray 10s. All but one of the 15 cards have them, and they are noticeable under slight magnification. Critics will point out that Topps printed some cards short from the factory, and that is certainly true. But I have a saying, not every short card is trimmed, but every trimmed card is short. And you can't overlook that many of the guys associated with these Murray 10s have been publicly outed as trimmers, including what we know about what PWCC was doing during this time. Besides, you can easily find other Murray cards, especially in lower grades, from average collectors, slab by PSA, that fit perfectly in their slabs. And should a shaker card really deserve a 10 anyway? In this research, I was surprised at what I didn't find. I couldn't confirm that even one Murray 10 went to an average collector. It could have happened, but I can't find any evidence of it. Believe me, I looked. Another thing I didn't see, stories about the history and lineage of these $10,000 cards. Think about it. Stories about great card discoveries boost the value of cards at auction. You've probably heard of famous card finds like Black Swamp, the Lucky 7, the guy who found the 52 mantles in his attic, and a number of others. Those stories are marketing gold for an auction house. There's a financial incentive to tell them, when they exist. Rick Snyder, who I discussed earlier, understands this and is trying to sell a T206 Cobb associated with a Lucky 7 find for $300,000. Joe Orlando recently posted on his social media about a find of mint 69 Reggie Jacksons that are new to the hobby. That will no doubt help their sale too. But when you look at the auction listings for these Murray 10s, there's absolutely no information in any of them about where these cards came from.
This is one of the absolute scarcest cards to try to acquire in PSA 10. We've only sold a few in our history, and this is the first that we've had a chance of brokering in many months, and I believe it's also the most recent inductee into that Gem Mint club.
You would think that if an average collector hit the lottery and submitted his childhood card and got a 10, there'd be an incentive to tell that story, and it would find its way into an auction listing. Yet, none of these cards have any public history to them. Now it's your turn. At the top right of your screen, you can click for a poll. Do you think these Gem Mint 10 Murray cards were mostly awarded legitimately by PSA, or do you think they were mostly questionable? If you don't think there's enough evidence, you can vote for that too. And don't forget to leave a comment with your own thoughts. If you like videos like this, please share it online, consider subscribing, or leaving a thumbs up. My next project will be doing the same analysis on the 1979 Ozzie Smith rookie card in PSA 10. Thanks for watching.